The auditorium buzzed with applause, echoing off polished wooden panels and marble columns. San Francisco's skyline framed the windows behind the stage. Modern, gleaming, untouchable. Amara sat 4 rows from the back, spine straight, hands folded in her lap. A proud mother might have cried. She didn't. Her daughter stood at the podium, glowing in a navy cap and gown, voice steady, confident, full of fire. Rhea had always been a natural speaker, the kind who made people lean forward, the kind who made strangers believe. "I want to thank the people who never gave up on me," Rhea said, eyes scanning the crowd. "Dad, you've been my rock. Serena, thank you for stepping in when things got complicated. To my professors, my friends, you kept me grounded. Camera fleches." A few sniffles, a cheer from the front row, but Amara didn't flinch. Her breath stayed level, her hands still. She didn't need her name called. She already knew how invisible she'd become. That was the point. When Rhea stepped down, embraced by her father and Serena, her former best friend turned replacement, Amara stood quietly. No one noticed her leave. Outside, the wind cut through her coat as she walked down the stone steps. The city moved around her like a current she refused to join. She turned down a side street, pulled out her phone, and opened a secure app. The screen showed a file marked Phase 3, Final Strike. Ready, Amara tapped it open. Her eyes flicked over the folders. She'd given them years to make it right. Now they were out of time. Hey, if you're still watching, that means you're enjoying the story. I have one small request. I'm trying to reach my first 1,000 subscribers. If you like stories like this, please hit the like button and subscribe to join the journey. It means a lot to me. And trust me, even better stories are coming. Hours later, the after-party spilled across social media like wildfire. Rhea posing between her father and Serena, flutes of champagne clinking, fairy lights tangled above their heads. Comments flooded in, beautiful family. Power couple energy. You raise a star. Amara watched the clips without sound. Her reflection in the laptop screen looked foreign, colder than she remembered. Her apartment was dark except for the dull glow of the monitor. Clean, sparse, nothing on the walls except one thing. A corkboard covered in legal documents, screenshots, financial records. At the center, 3 photos. Her ex-husband Daniel, Serena, Rhea. She got up, crossed to the kitchenette, poured a half glass of wine. She didn't drink to forget. She drank to remember what she'd built, what was stolen, and what came next. The company she had co-founded, Dawnhold Consulting, now thrived without her. Or rather, because they erased her. They used her mental health struggles, temporary, post-divorce, as ammunition. Daniel had played the perfect partner in meetings while quietly replacing her influence with Serena's. Her exit wasn't a resignation. It was an execution, and no one had questioned the clean, corporate narrative. Until now. She pulled out a flash drive from a drawer and plugged it into the laptop. Inside were recordings, boardroom conversations, internal memos, even one clipped audio file of Serena's voice. If she ever comes back, we'll burn everything before she touches it again. Amara pressed pause. Not this time. 3 years earlier. The office lights hummed above her as Amara flipped through yet another contract. Midnight again. She rubbed her temples, eyes gritty with exhaustion. Serena walked in, carrying 2 coffees. You're still here, Serena said, placing 1 cup beside her. You worked too hard. Let it go for one night. Amara smiled, tired but trusting. One day this place is going to run without us. Serena laughed. Let's hope not. That was before Daniel started skipping dinners. Before Rhea stopped sharing her drawings. Before Amara noticed changes in the company bylaws. Clauses that hadn't been there when she signed the founding agreement. One night, she pulled the original incorporation papers from a safe. Her name was first. Founder, CEO, majority holder. But the digital version? Altered. When she confronted Daniel, he said she was overworked. Paranoid. He'd already spoken to the board. They were worried about her. A week later, HR handed her a termination letter citing mental instability. Custody hearings began the same month. Now, in the present, Amara sat in a coffee shop 2 blocks from Donhold's new headquarters, watching employees come and go. Serena walked past the window, laughing into her phone. Ria trailed a few steps behind, distracted by the screen in her hand. They didn't see her, but Amara saw everything. She pulled a small black notebook from her coat pocket and turned to the next page. Names, dates, logins, hidden accounts. She wasn't rebuilding what she lost. She was building something stronger with their ashes. The first official cut came in the form of a board meeting scheduled without her. Amara had been in Portland for a tech summit, representing Donhold as CEO, when she got the email, not from the board, but from Serena. Urgent restructuring meeting. Need your digital signature on a few things. No big deal. The documents looked routine. Minor adjustments to equity splits, she was told. Clean up after a merger. The kind of admin most founders skim. She didn't skim. She never did. But fatigue makes smart people hesitate. Trust makes them stall. So she signed. 3 days later, her executive access was revoked. She called Daniel. He didn't answer. She called Serena. Straight to voicemail. By Monday, her name was gone from the company website. In the official press release, they used the word "step back" to describe her exit. Said she was taking time for herself. They called it mutual, peaceful, private. But in private, they bled her dry. Amara showed up at the office once more, demanded an in-person meeting. The receptionist, someone she'd hired herself, wouldn't even make eye contact. You're not on the visitor list. And Daniel? He came down to the lobby with security and a rehearsed expression. This isn't helping, Amara. For your sake, and Ria's, you need to walk away. He put a hand on her shoulder, the same hand that had held hers during their first client pitch 10 years ago. That was the day she stopped trying to get back in, and the day she started planning how to tear them out from the inside. The office building was new, sleek, the type of modern where glass did most of the talking and everything else whispered wealth. Donhold had rebranded itself since Amara's exile. New logo, new mission statement, new leadership. But one thing remained the same: their biggest clients. Legacy corporations with long money and low morals. Under a new alias, Mara Day, Amara walked through the front doors of one of those clients, Brincor Holdings. She wore a navy blazer, tailored slacks, no makeup. Just another contractor brought in to consult on operational weaknesses. The receptionist waved her through after scanning her badge. No one looked twice. That was the beauty of being erased. They'd made her invisible. Now, she could watch freely. Inside the glass conference room, junior execs bickered about budget cuts, vendor conflicts, and a pending audit that better not show anything it's not supposed to. Amara took notes, asked polite questions, offered simple suggestions. No one suspected a thing. Later that night, she logged in remotely to their internal server. What she found wasn't just sloppy. It was criminal. Falsified invoices. Funneling client bonuses through fake charities. And worse, her own digital signature copied and pasted on legacy documents, used as legal cover for actions made after her removal. They were still using her to stay clean. She sat back in the hotel chair, face lit only by the screen, lips pressed tight. They hadn't just buried her. They'd propped their kingdom on her bones. But now she was inside the walls, and the queen they buried was awake. The train ride back into San Francisco cut through fog and steel, windows streaked with light rain. Amara sat still, laptop on her knees, headphones in, but no music. Just white noise. Every movement from here on out had to be exact. Clean. No shortcuts. One mistake, and the Empire would bury the truth before it ever reached the surface. At Union Station, she moved with the crowd, unnoticed. Her reflection in the passing windows didn't look like a woman chasing revenge. She looked like someone returning from a seminar, a conference, an average life. That was the point. At her apartment, she locked the door behind her, and powered on the old desktop rig she hadn't touched in 2 years. It was off the cloud, off any modern network. Just her and the machine. She inserted the drive she'd loaded at Brincore. It blinked to life, files crawling across the screen. Under the folder labeled DC Audit, there were subfolders tagged with dates. Inside, contracts bearing her forged signature, audio snippets from Serena's staff meetings, and, buried deeper, an internal email with the subject line, "Let's keep her ghost useful." It was sent 3 months ago, to Daniel, from Serena. Amara leaned back slowly, letting the silence fill the room. There were no sudden outbursts, no triumphant music, just the weight of confirmation. The kind of proof you don't celebrate, you preserve. She renamed the folder, Exhibit A. Then she opened her notebook and flipped to the next page. Tomorrow, she'd go to a coffee shop in North Beach. Not because she liked the espresso, but because that's where Serena's new assistant liked to gossip with his barista boyfriend. And if he talked as much in person as he did on Twitter, he'd be her next lead. Tuesday morning, the coffee shop on Grand Avenue was half full. Soft jazz played from overhead speakers. The barista wore chipped nail polish, and Serena's assistant, Eli, was already on his second iced mocha. Amara sat 2 tables away, coat draped over her chair, laptop open but untouched. Eli laughed too loudly, his voice bouncing just far enough. His boyfriend leaned in close, eager for gossip. That's the thing about the people behind powerful people. They always think the world runs on secrets, but they forget who's listening. So Serena's been in meltdown mode. One of the auditors found a donor file that doesn't match public tax records. She flipped, yelled in the hallway. Her hair was curled, like she thought yelling with good waves made her right. The boyfriend giggled. "You think she's hiding something? Please. She's made a career out of hiding." Amara Patel? She didn't quit, babe. They kicked her. Quietly. She built that place, and they tossed her like takeout. Total blackout. We're not even allowed to say her name out loud. Amara clicked record on her phone, keeping her eyes fixed on the untouched document on her screen. Her hand didn't tremble. She wasn't surprised. She was confirming. Later, in her apartment, she clipped that recording into a folder marked Voices They Trusted. The empire wasn't cracking from force. It was going to collapse under the weight of its own lies. He called her from a private number. "You're not safe doing what you're doing," said the voice. Calm, measured, tired. "I'm not the one who should be afraid," Amara answered. A pause. "I'm not calling to threaten you." She recognized the voice. Amit Verma, her former mentor, former silent partner, one of the board members who'd watched her fall and said nothing, who voted her out because it was easier than defending her. They met in a quiet garden cafe on the west side. No phones, no handshakes. Amit looked older, smaller, like a man weighed down by unfinished sentences. "I stayed quiet because they convinced me you'd lost control," he said. "But I've seen the filings. I know now. What they did, save the remorse," Amara said flatly. "I didn't come here for closure. I came for confirmation." Amit lowered his eyes, slid a folder across the table. "Everything I didn't say. Signed. Dated. Their plan was in place 6 months before your first board review. They had Serena coaching Rhea to write statements against you in court. I thought maybe you'd break and they'd settle. But you didn't break. You vanished. I was learning," she said, "and waiting." She stood, left the folder untouched for 5 more seconds, then picked it up and walked away. By the time he turned around, she was already gone. Late at night, Amara sat cross-legged on the floor, walls covered in whiteboard sheets, notes, timestamps, and diagrams. Her living room looked like the inside of a legal mind at war. A headline blinked across her screen. Anonymous source links Dawn hold to embezzlement scheme in public school grants. Not leaked, placed, and placed perfectly. Across the city, Daniel and Serena would be reading it for the first time too, wondering who had turned, wondering how much was out there. Amara hit play on a voice recording. Rhea's voice, young, uncertain, coached. My mom stopped taking care of things. She was unstable. Amara closed her eyes. That clip had lived in court transcripts. She'd never needed to hear it out loud. Until now. She added it to a folder labeled Redemption, Pending. Then she sat back and looked at the board again. Lines connected faces. Emails connected dates. Everything clicked into place. Except one thing, you. Yes, you. Let's try something different for a second. You've been watching this story unfold. Quietly, maybe from a couch, a bus seat, your bed. But now I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? What city are you in right now? Drop it in the comments. Because when truth comes knocking, no place is too far, no secret too buried. And this story? It's just warming up. Now breathe. Stretch your fingers. Look around. Then keep watching. They thought she was gone. They thought silence meant surrender. They don't know what silence really means. Thursday morning. Overcast. Amara walked the perimeter of Dawnhold's new flagship building like it was a crime scene. And in some ways, it was. She didn't rush. She observed. Every square foot had been built on something she designed. The brand, the language, the strategy. They'd scrub her name off every plaque, but her fingerprints were still in the foundation. That afternoon, a shipment arrived at the front desk. Unmarked box. Internal delivery only. Inside were copies of Dawnhold's original founding contract, tax returns from 2016 to 2018, and 2 photos. One of Amara at the first client pitch, and another of a signature comparison. Her original, real signature and the digital forgery still attached to current filings. The note inside read, "You should probably update your records." A ghost. They didn't know where it came from. They wouldn't find her on any CCTV. She never stepped inside, but she watched through a reflection across the street as Serena opened the box and froze. A junior associate approached her, said something. Serena snapped. Amara sipped her espresso and didn't blink. They'd wanted her erased. Now she was unignorable. 2 hours later, a leak hit a whistleblower forum. Anonymous, time-stamped, cross-verified. It was surgical. A spreadsheet showing Dawnhold rerouted donor funds into unrelated shell entities. Screenshots of emails mentioning optics management. And one heavily redacted legal draft with Amara's name at the top and bottom. Proof that they'd repurposed her authority after her removal. It didn't go viral. Not yet. But inside the firm, it detonated. At the next board meeting, voices rose. One member walked out. 2 others demanded internal review. Daniel tried to contain it. "We don't panic. We manage." But Serena's face said otherwise. And later that night, she called someone from her car. Amara intercepted the voicemail through a third-party server she planted 2 months ago. "She has to be behind this," Serena hissed. "I don't care what it takes. I want everything she ever touched buried." Amara saved the voicemail, labeled it Self-Incrimination PT1. She wasn't done. Not even close. Rhea showed up at Amara's door just after 8. No warning. No text. She just stood there, face unsure, jaw tense. Amara opened the door and stepped aside without a word. They sat in silence for a minute. 2. Then Rhea said it. "Why did you never fight back?" Amara studied her daughter's face. So familiar, so rehearsed. Like she still wasn't sure if she was supposed to be angry, grateful, or just confused. "You were a kid," Amara said. "I wasn't going to fight you for truth when they fed you a lie so well." Rhea looked away. "I said some horrible things in court. You repeated what they trained you to say." Amara didn't reach out, didn't comfort. She wasn't here to rush redemption. Instead, she got up and returned with a tablet. "Onsen, one audio clip." A boardroom conversation recorded 3 years ago. Serena, Daniel, and a lawyer talking in cold, rehearsed tones. If we frame her mental state right, the court will swing custody. The company board won't blink. We feed the story. Control the narrative. Let the dust settle. Rhea listened. Slowly. Fully. Her eyes didn't move from the screen. Her breath did. "That's your version of them," Amara said. "Now ask yourself why their version of me was so easy to believe. No dramatics, no emotional outburst, just the truth. Rhea left without saying another word, but she took the tablet with her. The gala was invitation only, real estate tycoons, legacy donors, a few tech influencers pretending to care about educational reform. Donhold hosted it in a glass atrium downtown, ceiling rigged with warm lights, violin music trailing through champagne bubbles and clean linen. Amara stood on the balcony across the street. She watched Daniel make his rounds. Firm handshake, eye contact, the practiced pause between sentences. He still wore the same cufflinks, still rehearsed his charm like it was currency. She zoomed in with her phone camera, recording his speech. He opened with the same line he'd used years ago when they were partners. We believe in second chances, for students, for cities, for dreams. Amara turned away before the room clapped. Earlier that day, a donor had received an anonymous tip, proof that Donhold's Second Chance program funneled underreported grant money into dummy foundations. 2 more donors got similar packets, all from different sources, all precise. By morning, the board would wake up to calls, questions, threats to pull out. Amara didn't need to be in the room. She'd built it. Now she was setting on fire, 1 floor at a time. And still, no one knew where the flame was coming from. The boardroom was no longer polite. Serena slammed a folder shut. These leaks are coming from someone inside. Someone close. One of the directors stood. Your obsession with control is what brought us here. You built this place to be untouchable, and now we're radioactive. You think Daniel can fix this with a speech? Daniel didn't respond. He was staring at his phone. The Tech and Equity Watch blog had just dropped a news story. Anonymous sources, leaked documents, confirmed whistleblower complaint filed to the state attorney's office. On screen, a familiar headline. The woman they buried, how Donhold erased its founder and stole her legacy. Serena read the first paragraph aloud, voice cracking. For 3 years, Amara Patel's name was scrubbed from her company's history. But what Donhold didn't know was she never left. Daniel looked up. She's playing God. No, one board member said quietly. She's playing architect. It was supposed to be a mock trial, an academic exercise led by Rhea's law seminar class. The professor chose a fictional scenario involving corporate manipulation and character assassination. But Rhea recognized the case immediately. Names changed, details twisted, but the bones? Identical. The courtroom gallery was filled with students and a few guests. Amara sat in the back row, unnoticed. She watched her daughter rise, clear her throat, and deliver the opening argument. This is not just about business. This is about theft, about narrative control, about taking the work of one woman and feeding it to a machine built by those who convinced her she was disposable. The professor smiled, thinking it was creative flair. Amara didn't move. She didn't clap. She just watched. After the session, Rhea exited through the side door. Amara followed. They met outside under a flickering streetlight, the night still warm. You rewrote the facts, Amara said. I tested them, Rhea replied. And they hold up. They stood there for a long moment. No hugs, no forgiveness, just recognition. Then Rhea said, if they come after you legally, I want in. I don't care if they're family. Amara didn't smile, but something in her chest, something caged and heavy, shifted slightly. Not release. Not yet, but the beginning of it. Donhold's legal office opened at 9 a.m. sharp. At 9:01, a thick white envelope was hand-delivered by a courier wearing gloves. No return address. Inside, 35 pages of archived internal emails, time-stamped edits to legal documents bearing Amara's signature, and a memo marked internal use only that detailed the settlement strategy in case she ever reappeared. No letter, no demand, just the facts. The managing counsel read through every page, his coffee untouched. By noon, Serena was holding an emergency video call. Someone hacked us, she snapped. No signs of breach, IT said. This didn't come from outside. That's not possible. Daniel leaned forward. What if it's not hacking? What do you mean? What if she never needed to hack anything? What if she had access from the beginning? The line went quiet. Serena whispered, "She's not in the system." Daniel's face darkened. "No, she is the system." The firm's biggest private investor, Evelyn Kerr, made a phone call. She didn't bother with PR. She didn't issue a statement. She simply sent one email. Freeze future funding until internal review is complete. It was enough to set fire to every desk. Daniel tried to call her. No answer. Serena met with her team, barking orders, trying to create a firewall around the narrative. "She's trying to tank us." "No, she's doing something worse," said one analyst. "She's letting us tank ourselves." Across the street, in a borrowed office space, Amara watched live social media feeds. A junior staffer had posted an anonymous confession to an internal forum. "I've seen documents change overnight. I didn't say anything. Now I regret it." That post had been screenshotted, shared, debated, and it was just the beginning. Amara moved another sticky note on her board from private to public. Below it, Phase 4, Controlled Detonation. In progress that evening, a podcast went live. The host, a respected investigative journalist with a reputation for wrecking corporate facades, teased the episode hours in advance. Tonight, how a woman was erased from her own empire, and how she turned erasure into evidence. Amara's voice never appeared in the interview. Only her documents. Only corroborated testimony. Verified. Cross-referenced. Delivered with surgical storytelling. Her silence remained intact. And yet, the story exploded. Hashtags trended. Former employees came forward. An ex-intern posted a TikTok recounting a whispered conversation about a founder who got ghosted by her own legacy. Memes followed. Then think pieces. Then real consequences. By midnight, Dawnhold's site had been defaced by hackers. Not Amara, but opportunists smelling blood. "Where's Amara Patel?" blinked across the homepage before IT shut it down. Ria sent a single text to her mother. "They're panicking." Amara typed one word back. "Good." Then for the first time in years, she smiled. The press conference was scheduled for 2 p.m. Daniel stood in front of a row of cameras, flanked by a PR rep and 2 silent board members. The statement was dry, full of vague terms. Ongoing internal review, deep respect for our founding history, commitment to transparency. But the damage was already done. While he spoke, journalists received live push alerts on their phones. The first headline, "Leaked Audit. Dawnhold used forged signatures in $3.4 million contract cycle." The second, "Founder Amara Patel may have been victim of coordinated corporate coup." By the time Daniel finished reading, reporters weren't asking questions. They were making accusations. Did Amara Patel sign the documents under duress? Is Serena Kapoor still leading compliance despite named involvement in the scandal? Why was Amara's name omitted from the company's history page for 3 years? Daniel froze. He had no answers. Serena wasn't even there. At a distance, Amara watched the live stream from her phone, seated in a quiet garden surrounded by trees. Her expression was unreadable. She wasn't celebrating. She was documenting. Because this wasn't the finale. This was still foreplay. 2 days later, Ria sent Amara another message. "You should come. I've made sure your name's on the list." It was a scholarship gala hosted by the university one Dawnhold had previously sponsored. Their name had been pulled. Quietly, but the event still stood. Amara arrived in black, understated elegance. No media, no drama, just presence. Inside, the walls were lined with photographs of past student success stories. The center panel now had a new addition, a framed print of a news article. How one woman reclaimed the company she built, and the voice they tried to erase. The room was packed. No one asked who she was. Everyone already knew. When Ria took the stage to speak, her voice was calmer than before, steadier. And this time, when she listed the names of those who helped her succeed, she didn't hesitate. "I owe everything to someone who didn't just raise me, but who taught me how to rise again. My mother, Amara Patel. Amara didn't cry, but something deep inside her cracked, quietly, privately, like ice splitting under sunlight. Legacy had been restored, not given, taken back. And the room stood to clap, not for a brand, not for a business, but for the name that built it. The summons went public, filed with the district attorney's office, a formal motion to investigate corporate fraud, document forgery, and conspiracy to defame a founding executive for financial gain. Attached were 200-plus pages of evidence. Sourced, watermarked, legally clean, all signed by the whistleblower. Real name, full title, Amara S. Patel. The media swarmed. Analysts dissected the case. Legal experts called it unprecedented. Serena was served papers on her front porch. Cameras caught the moment. Her robe wrinkled, hair undone, mask shattered. She screamed at the process server. The video made the rounds online under the caption, CEO has public meltdown after lawsuit bombshell. Daniel's legal team went silent. Board members lawyered up. Sponsors pulled out. Amara? She sat in her apartment, quiet, deliberate, sipping black tea as she flipped through printed affidavits. Ria, now beside her, highlighted inconsistencies. She'd insisted on helping with prep. Amara didn't stop her, because this wasn't just a trial anymore. It was a reckoning. The courthouse lobby was marble and tension. News vans parked along the street. Reporters lined the metal barriers, waiting for statements. The air buzzed with anticipation, but Amara didn't flinch. She walked in alone. No entoraje, no pear honde, just a slim leather briefcase and that same focused stillness that had unsettled boardrooms years before. Inside, Daniel sat at the defendant's table, flanked by attorneys. His tie was too tight. His confidence had started to crack. Serena wasn't present. Her team had requested a continuance. Illness, they claimed. No one believed it. Amara took her seat beside her lawyer, a younger woman named Layla whom she had personally vetted. Sharp, unfazed, quiet like her. The hearing began with opening motions. The judge asked if the plaintiff would like to make a personal statement. Layla turned to Amara. A slight nod. Amara stood, approached the mic. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't dramatize. I'm not here to destroy anyone, she said. I'm here to correct a record. Mine. She placed one printed document on the table. This was my signature. This is the forgery used to frame me. Side by side, you'll see the difference. One came from me, the other from a lie. She stepped back. That was it. No teatrix. Just evidence. Let them react however they wanted. The truth didn't need volume. It needed presence. After the hearing, Amara didn't speak to the press. She walked straight through the lobby, head up, eyes forward. Outside, Ria was waiting near the curb. She held out a coffee, without a word. I don't need them to like me, Amara said quietly. I just need them to remember what I built. They already do, Ria replied. You don't have to go back there, you know. Dawn holds dead weight. Even if you win, it's still poison. Amara looked out at the street, cars passing like moments. I'm not trying to take back what was stolen, she said. I'm proving I didn't lose it. Later that night, Amara received a letter from the new board chair of Dawnhold, a formal offer to return as CEO under a restructured vision. She didn't respond. Instead, she drafted a different document, an investment proposal for a new incubator. Female-led, ethically run, built from the ground up with transparency, mentorship, and accountability. She named it Avise, a word from her grandmother's language. It meant that which cannot be hidden. She sent the deck to 3 contacts. It would go live in the morning. Let them keep Dawnhold. She was building something that didn't need her name in lights, because this time, no one could take it away. 1 week later, another gala, this one hosted by an education nonprofit Amara had quietly supported for years. No cameras, no red carpet, just changemakers and mentors, celebrating students who had risen through impossible odds. Amara hadn't planned to attend, but Ria insisted. You should see what your quiet did, she'd said. So she came. Inside, the walls were lined not with donors, but with student work, journals, art, essays, code samples. On stage, a small group of graduates read excerpts from personal letters. One girl, 16, nervous, wearing borrowed heels, read a letter addressed not to a parent, but to a stranger. Thank you for the second chance. You didn't know me, but you made a space I could grow into. You made me feel seen. At her table, Amara listened, fingers tracing the base of her glass. That girl had received one of the scholarships Amara funded quietly through Avise. No spotlight, no branding, just restoration. Later, Ria leaned in and whispered, "You built this without ever needing to be in the room." Amara nodded once. Because legacy isn't presence, it's impact. The courtroom was colder on day 3. Not physically, just a shift in energy. The kind that creeps in when the air is thick with dread and no one knows where the next blow will come from. Amara sat still as Layla guided a forensic accountant through testimony. We were able to trace the IP logs associated with document alterations, the witness explained. These edits were made post-removal from devices registered to Serena Kapoor and Daniel Patel. The judge nodded. Amara didn't look at Daniel. She didn't need to. She could feel his stillness, the same kind that lives in men who are finally realizing their myth is dying. Layla continued. Were you able to identify forged signatures used on federal filings? Yes. We compared metadata across Amara Patel's verified filings and the post-2019 contracts. The forgeries are crude. Duplicated signatures copied and pasted from earlier forms. Would they have passed a regulatory audit? They did, because the audit was rigged. Gasps didn't fill the room. This wasn't a movie, just the flat, awful quiet of people finally understanding what they'd ignored. And still, Amara said nothing. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. The judge looked down at the docket. We've received a request for cross-examination. Serena Kapoor has agreed to testify voluntarily. The courtroom stirred. Layla leaned over to Amara. She's desperate. Amara didn't respond. They brought Serena in through a side door. She was thinner now, paler, dressed in the kind of crisp beige blazer people wear when trying to pretend everything is fine. She took the stand and swore in. What's your relationship to Amara Patel? Layla asked. Former business partner. Former friend, Serena said. Her voice shook. We built Dawn Hold together. You were named in filings indicating signature manipulation, embezzlement, and false reporting. How do you respond? Serena looked at Amara then. First time in 3 years. I didn't start it, but I helped keep it going. I convinced myself it was survival, that if I didn't move with them, I'd be crushed under them. Her voice cracked, but she wasn't unstable. She wasn't unfit. We made that up. To get her out. The judge scribbled a note. Reporters began typing furiously. Layla waited a beat, then asked, And why confess now? Serena looked down. Because she's still standing. And I can't keep pretending I didn't help bury her. It was not redemption, but it was enough to collapse what was left of Dawn Hold's legal armor. After court, Daniel requested a recess meeting, a final attempt to control the narrative before the verdict. Layla advised against it. Amara said nothing, just walked into the side room. Daniel was waiting. No eternis. No notes. Just him. He smiled. The way people smile when they're cornered and still believe they can talk their way out. We built that company together. You know that. You buried me in it. You got what you wanted, didn't you? He said. The attention, the applause, the comeback story. Amara studied him like an old artifact, something faded, cracked, no longer dangerous. I didn't want attention, she said quietly. I wanted the truth, and I wanted my daughter to know who lied. He leaned forward. I'll settle. You can have a payout. Retake control if you want. I'll walk. She stepped closer, voice still low. I don't want control. Then she placed something on the table. A small, unlocked USB drive. What is that? Everything I didn't use in court. The offshore accounts. The emails about the backdoor deals with housing contractors. The kickbacks. The things you did after I was gone. Daniel's face drained. That's not part of this case. No, Amaris said. It's part of the next one. She walked out without another word. Let him sweat. Let him finally feel what it's like to sit on the edge of someone else's silence and wonder when the drop comes. Verdict day. Overcast skies again, like the city was holding its breath. Amara stood at the courthouse entrance just before the doors opened. No security detail. No sunglasses. Just presence. Inside, Daniel's seat was empty. His lawyer spoke for him, claimed a health matter. Serena sat silently in the front row. Her legal team didn't object. She already knew what was coming. The judge entered. The clerk read the decision. The court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Amara Patel, on all counts including defamation, document forgery, and breach of fiduciary duty. A pause. Further, the court recommends a criminal investigation into financial fraud and tax evasion within Donhold Consulting. The courtroom didn't erupt. No cheers, just silence. The kind that sits in your chest when justice lands heavy and real. Layla turned to Amara, whispered, "It's done." But Amara knew better. The court's decision was final. Her closure, though, that was personal. She walked out as the cameras fired and microphones rushed. She didn't speak, not a word, because they'd taken her voice once. Now she chose when and where to use it. 2 weeks later, in a renovated warehouse in the Mission District, the launch event for Avise was in full swing. Clean lines, neutral tones, soft jazz, and startup energy. But no founders on stage giving overpolished speeches. No logo monologues. No applause vracs. Amara wasn't up front. She was in the back, sipping ginger tea, watching 4 young founders pitch ideas she'd helped fund. Tech for public schools, modular housing for single mothers, financial literacy programs for teenage girls. This time, she didn't need her name on the building. She was the architect behind the blueprint, not the brand on the brochure. Ria appeared beside her, holding a worn-out tablet. "This still has the original recording," she said. "The one that started it all." Amara glanced at it. "You're keeping it for now," Ria said, as a reminder, not of what they did, of what you didn't let happen twice. Amara nodded slowly. The crowd clapped as another founder stepped off stage. The host took the mic. "Everything you see here was made possible by one belief, that when someone takes your name, your work, your story, you don't vanish. You build louder, smarter, and longer lasting." People turned, looking for her. Amara didn't step forward. She just smiled, tipped her cup back, and whispered to Ria, "Let them wonder where I am." The courthouse was quieter now. The crowds had faded. The cameras moved on. Headlines gave way to newer scandals. But that's how it goes. Stories burn bright, then vanish into scrolls. Unless you write the ending yourself. Amara sat by the window of a sunlit office. Not Donhold's glass cage, but the warm, open floor of Avise headquarters. A group of young interns argued playfully over data models in the corner. Her team reviewed funding applications on the couches nearby. She wasn't the CEO on paper. Didn't need to be. Her fingerprints were in the culture, in the transparency, in the rules that couldn't be bent. A delivery arrived. Just a small envelope. No return address. Inside, a short note on crisp paper. "You won. No apology. No signature. Just acknowledgement." She placed it in a drawer and closed it. There was nothing left to prove. She stepped outside. The city buzzed like it always had. Impatient, ambitious, never still. She crossed the street, stood at the edge of a mural painted by a group of students Avise had sponsored. A quote stretched across the wall in bold, charcoal lettering. They tried to erase her. So she made herself unforgettable. Ria took a photo from behind her. "You want to post it?" she asked. Amara shook her head. "Let live where it is. Not everything has to be tagged to count." They both laughed. A new chapter had started. One with no courtroom, no voz-chasing, just work that mattered, and a daughter who knew the truth. The kind of ending that didn't need applause. Just impact. You're still here? Good. That means you felt this story. Maybe you saw someone like Amara in your own life. Maybe you were her. Or maybe you just wanted to watch the liars fall and the quiet ones win for once. Now here's the part where you make your voice count. Tell us in the comments. What city are you watching from? Was there a moment that hit hardest? A chapter that stayed with you longer than you expected? Drop your thoughts below. Let's make this more than a story. Let's make it a conversation. And if Amara's journey meant something to you, hit like if you were rooting for her from the shadows. Subscribe if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Smash that bell icon like it's every lie they tried to bury her under. This wasn't just revenge. This was restoration. This was about every voice they tried to silence. And how silence, when wielded right, is louder than any scream. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, remember who you are and never forget who tried to rewrite you. The end.